Hey, folks, we're back with another episode of Unfinished Deep Dive. And we are in the month of September, and I am your host, Jeff Galashaw, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics. And Repeat that?
I just said yo, yo, yo.
Okay, because I talked over you during it. That's why.
Yo, yo, ma. I don't give a shit.
Hey, he plays a mean cello. So this week, or this episode, because we're not doing this weekly, we're going to talk about everybody's favorite alien invasion movie. No, not Independence Day. We're talking about 1996, Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. With an all-star cast amongst many, we have Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Natalie Portman, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, Martin Short, Pam Grier, Jim Brown, Lisa Marie. I have a whole list here, people.
Michael J. Fox,
Annette Bening,
Danny DeVito.
You beat me to it, damn it. Paul Winfield,
Rod Steiger,
Sylvia Sidney, Lucas Haas, Jack Black, Christina Applegate. If you want to get really obscure, Ray J.
Tom Jones.
Why do you keep going after the next name? Rod Steiger. That's all I got. If you got any other names I didn't mention, go.
I just said Rod Steiger.
Damn it. I mean, if you really want to go, Barbette Schroeder, the director, who plays the president of France.
Basically, everybody from 1960 to 1996 who was popular was in this film.
Yes, and it's based on the Topps, I believe, card series of the same name. I remember the one more from the 1980s when it was Dinosaur Attacks, so I never got to see the original Mars Attacks card. I remember seeing this movie in theaters, but in the $2 theater. And I remember my friend saying to me, wow, I didn't expect it to be that disappointing. And I was like, really? Because I will admit, from the trailer alone, it felt too like kitschy for me to really be a serious, alien invasion film. And then, when I saw the movie, I wasn't wrong. And even with Jack Nicholson in a double role, which I think was a mistake, because I know originally there was another actor that they wanted to play the Art Land character, Michael Keaton, in fact, but he couldn't schedule it. So then Jack Nicholson said he'll take both roles, even though he wasn't even the first choice. But he accepted the role without even reading the script because he had so much fun working on Batman. I bet you that was the last time he did that. And the film, I would have to say this is where Tim Burton really started to his trajectory started to go down with this film, because this is one of the film, it's not, trust me, Planet of the Apes is worse, but this film really, I guess, made me realize that basically he really likes bringing things that he grew up with to the big screen. And it's obvious with this film. In this film, even Rod Steiger said the failure of this film was that it was rushed because it was supposed to come out the summer of the next year. But because Independence Day was such a hit, the studio wanted it out by December. So everything was rushed, which would explain kind of like Pierce Brosnan and Sarah Jessica Parker's whole storyline, which was weird and felt thrown in. But that's the problem with the movie. Everything feels like short sketches thrown in, just revolving around this Mars Attacks. Like the Slim Whitman music being the ultimate weapon against them. Jack Nicholson, you can tell trying to be funny instead of inhabiting a character who is funny. And, a lot of these actors get killed off like very fast. Like Jack Black, I mean, he wasn't a star at the time, but he's barely in this movie. Christina Applegate is more of a cameo. Michael J. Fox, again, very brief role. everybody just seems like they're in a rush. That's the problem I find with the film. And there's no depth to it. Like, Natalie Portman's character disappears 1/3 into the movie, only to show up at the end out of nowhere. And the hero is the farm boy who seems a little dim, played by Lucas Haas. And, Sylvia Sidney is like, this is her final role after, Beetlejuice for Tim Burton. The film just feels like, I said, it just feels rushed and everything is a mess. It feels like they tried hard. Like, the production design is beautiful. And I know the aliens were supposed to be stop motion at first, and then they decided to go with CGI. I think it might have been in going with the mood of the 1950s and 60s. Maybe they should have done the stop motion effects for the aliens. Tell me your experience with Mars Attacks and what you think.
I'm almost ashamed to say I saw this movie opening weekend with my dad. In fact, when they announced this film, they had, remember when Blockbuster Video had like the catalog, they would tell you about like all the movie news, what's coming up. And I remember my cousin reading it and thinking it was going to be the next James Bond movie because Pierce Brosnan was announced to be in it. But I knew right away, no, that's not going to be the next Bond film. From the trailer, I kind of understood what this was going to be. This was going to be, a comedic alien invasion film in contrast to Independence Day, which took itself seriously, but was still stupid. But I don't think what I probably didn't understand because I was so young was that this was a throwback, not just to sci-fi B movies of the 50s, but also to all the Irwin Allen produced movies like The Poseidon Adventure or The Towering Inferno, where you have those big all-star casts and it's a big disaster picture. And they just throw anybody who was popular at that time into this movie, whether it was Tim Burton's friends, actors he wanted to work with in past movies and didn't have the chance to, and just random people like Tom Jones, just to have him in there. Jim Brown, to be the strong man. Even Pam Grier has a role. Brandon Hammond, who was in everything in 1996, plays a role in this movie.
Don't forget Ray J.
Yeah, Ray J too. And it's also interesting how they make all the kid actors like smarter and tougher than the adults, which I think was Burton trying to throw some commentary in there, except the commentary doesn't land. Whatever messaging he's trying to say, that this movie is supposed to be a reflection of our society and how we're all warmongers and capitalists and we embrace violence, it was not working in this movie. And you have all these great actors, all these icons, but they're not funny. Like you said, Jack Nicholson in other movies can naturally be funny, but you're forcing him to be funny, and it doesn't work. I don't mind the cheesy CGI. That's supposed to be what this movie is. The Lisa Marie character is supposed to be kind of freaky, even though I don't know how she can get past the White House walking and looking the way she does, and nobody's like blinking an eye about it. But it's just one of those movies where there's ideas that fall completely flat on their face because, like you said, they were probably in a rush to do it. And people saw this film and probably thought it was going to be like a serious Independence Day film and wound up being more of a cartoon. And they're like, I don't want to pay to see this shit. And I'm sure people didn't like seeing their favorite actors getting killed off in like 2 seconds. So yeah, this was a damn disappointment and a downward trajectory for Tim Burton as a director, because it showed what happens when he becomes more commercialized than his artistic days with Beetlejuice and Pee-wee, and even Batman Returns had his style to it. This movie is like, now you're seeing the commercial Tim Burton and it's not the same anymore.
And unfortunately, it feels like that Tim Burton is what we're getting a lot of now, rather than the artistic Tim Burton. Because realistically, the only time I felt like his commercial instincts and artistic instinct were in sync was on the movie Big Fish, which again is not a typical Tim Burton production, but it oddly worked. I thought the most interesting commentary was when the aliens are using supposedly the translator machine, and everything they say, he put nothing but positive messages in there. So no matter what they were really talking about, it was already kind of like skewered. And I thought that was kind of smart, But other than that, that was the only thing I thought that was smart. I like the two kids acting more macho than the Secret Service in protecting the president on their tour. And I have to say, for all the flack Tim Burton has gotten for not having people of color in his film, this is the most, African American and deeper characters he's ever had in any of his movies. And it's a shame that it's the bad one. I just felt like with Pam Grier and Jim Brown, maybe he was a fan of blaxploitation movies and was like, hey, I can put them together in the same movie because Fred Williamson's asking for too much money.
I think he saw Original Gangsters. It's like, oh, they're on the comeback trail.
Well, it could have. I'm sure it could have been Isaac Hayes, but no one would have believed him as an ex-boxer.
He could have replaced Tom Jones.
Well, hey, Tom Jones is always free. I mean, come on. Who defines Vegas like Tom Jones? Wayne Newton's too easy.
Engelbert Humperdinck.
Nah, that's too obscure for half the audience. They'd be like, oh, they think that was a made-up name.
But he could sing Lesbian Seagull.
Hey, Tom Jones was on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that year. So like you said, it was 1996. Everybody who was big in 96 was there. I mean, I know Johnny Depp was, I believe, supposed to play the Michael J. Fox role originally.
And they wanted Meryl Streep for the First Lady before Glenn Close. And
I know that this is also a movie where, again, Michael J. Fox's illness started really showing up a little more on screen. So
this was like his last movie when he did Spin City, so he didn't do much after that.
Exactly. I mean, the first, again, it's disappointing. What did I write in my notes? It tries too hard. It's, especially the most shocking part of the film is well, I guess you could call it gore. When people get blasted and it's just green, that was kind of shocking, especially for something that almost looks like a kid's film, how candy colored it was. If it was made today, I definitely think Anya Taylor-Joy could have played the Lisa Marie role of the alien, because it's like a bombshell, though with a strangely small waist. And I mean, the only reason she gets past all the guards is because she's with Martin Short's character who likes hookers, apparently 1950s looking hookers. Yeah. So I'm like, whatever. And out of all the actors in the film, you make the horn dog Martin Short. It's like, that was weird. Because again, he did not bring his comedic stylings there. Let's see. And I guess it was a real disappointment because Tim Burton was, at that point, one of my favorite directors that, whose work I was paying attention to at the time. So anytime one of his movies came out, I was like, I'm there, even though, I was a little late to this one, but that was probably because I heard the bad review. So I was like, maybe I should wait till when I can get this at a discount, So that's when I eventually saw the film. The film feels hollow. Again, I know it's supposed to be based on Irwin Allen tragedies. It's supposed to be, this tragedy and throwback to the 1950s, but it just feels empty. It has no real heart. Even the likable characters, you don't really feel anything for them. And
I think it's a movie that's too in love with its star power and its production design, which again is fantastic. The cinematography done by David Cronenberg's go-to guy. But other than that, and even Danny Elfman's score is actually really good. So it's got positives, but it's not a profoundly deep script. And as hard as it tries to have all these messages and commentary and social satire, for some reason, none of it lands. And I don't know if it was the studio or if it was just Burton too in love with his own material, because we've seen with Batman Returns what happens when you let this guy loose and you allow him to do what he wants. He ends up taking it in places that are uncomfortable for the audience.
Yeah, because one of the only funny jokes I found in it, showing how white trash her character was, that Jack Black's fiance is so in love with him, but the day he dies, when the aliens come to the trailer park, she's already shacked up with somebody else. I'm like, okay, I get what you were going for here, but it just felt like we need Christina Applegate for another day.
Or what about the press conference in the White House and you have that hermaphrodite looking guy asking about the sex of the aliens?
Yeah, that was a weird, uncomfortable moment.
That's something they could have cut out completely.
Yes, I guess it was meant to imply, is this person an alien? Like I don't know what the whole message is, but let's not give the internet more to feed on with that.
Yes, no crowd will come after us.
You know, um, Again, Natalie Portman disappears halfway through the film. It's actually 1/3 through the film. Okay, here's some casting news. Pierce Brosnan was not the first pick. It was Hugh Grant for that role.
He was doing everything back then.
Of course, it was 96. He hadn't met Divine Brown yet. Uh, Glenn Shaddix was originally supposed to play Danny DeVito's role, but he was too busy on Dunstan Checks In.
Really? He was busy. Holy shit.
Exactly. I like that. Hey, I got a great role for you. I'm busy. I'm doing a kids movie. I can't do it this week. So he's like, damn, I got to get Danny DeVito, I guess. Like,
they're trying to call up Harvey Keitel in 1994 to do a gangster movie, but oh no, I'm doing Monkey Trouble right now. I'm doing it for my kid.
I just wonder how Danny DeVito might have felt being the second guy for that role, even though he's really in the movie for 5 minutes.
Remember, he tried to get Jack Nicholson's money to play the Penguin, and they said, you ain't getting paid like Jack.
You're not Jack Nicholson famous.
Yeah, you don't get the front row seats to the Laker games every game. I'm sure he does, but I don't think he's at that level.
I mean, out of all the people in this movie, I felt sorriest for Paul Winfield, who gets a thankless role. And he's like, see, if I just stayed quiet and seemed stoic, I'd get that promotion. And then it's just like, that's his role? And I mean, what? Well, go ahead.
This was like the last movie for a lot of these guys. Him and Rod Steiger.
Oh. Yeah. Rod Steiger was work until the day he died. So
I saw him at a Cool Again concert in 2001.
Was he angry?
No, he was hanging out in the back, just having his drink and looking all pimped out.
Wow, Rod Steiger of all people. He just always seems like abrupt and angry every time you see an interview or a performance.
Guy. I didn't talk to him, but he seemed like that's out of character for him. I wouldn't expect it.
Exactly, especially if you've ever seen him on Dinner for Five. It's just like, yeah. I'm like, I don't think I want to sit next to Rod. But no, because Rod's was End of Days his last movie?
I think it was, yeah.
So that was like 99. And honestly, Rod Steiger gives the best performance the whole movie here.
I think he's the only one that gets what he's trying to do.
Well, I mean, he did work with Kubrick. So,
true.
Just saying. I guess, was George C. Scott dead in 96?
No, he was still alive because he did that 12 Angry Men remake at that time.
If they couldn't have gotten Steiger, I say they should have gone with George C. Scott.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie, like I said, Tim Burton has made worse since then. But, this was really, really where you stop seeing him in like just shining godlike manner. Like, where it's like, oh, everything he touches is gold. This was really, his first, I guess it made money, but I guess his first flop, really. And after this, it seemed like he felt a little kind of aimless after this. Like he didn't know, should I go for my artistic or should I go with, commercials? And
well, if you remember, the next movie he was supposed to do after this was Superman Lives. And obviously that's been well documented what happened there.
Exactly. And then what, did it end up being Planet of the Apes as his next movie?
No, Sleepy Hollow.
Someday we'll talk about that.
I think he was angry on that day.
I believe so. But he got to work with his buddies. So he was happy. He's like, I'm going full gothic. You thought I was gothic before. Wait till I introduce forensic up in this mofo. But like I said, Mars Attacks, it was an interesting attempt, but I think it would maybe work more now, but also on streaming. Because then I think audiences might get, okay, this is a throwback, an all-star throwback, rather than in 1996 where they were expecting an alien extravaganza with an all-star cast. And instead, it's like most of their favorite people are getting killed off. And
I think weirdly enough, after Don't Look Up, I think people would get it now.
I think so, too. But like I said, I mean, I haven't seen all of his movies, but I have to say this is pretty. I didn't see Man Trouble. This is pretty bad for Jack. You know, even playing two roles, he's horrible as the Las Vegas guy. And then the one scene I remember him as the president when he goes to shake the hand and the hands crawling all over him, and he's like, that was just like, oh, this is such a bad.
You know who should have played the Las Vegas guy? It should have been Burt Reynolds.
I agree. I was gonna say that.
He had that vibe. He could have easily have played that like he was the bandit all over again.
Exactly. It was like one of the few times it could have been a comeback role for Burt Reynolds. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't have minded him as the president either. But they weren't going to give a big studio film like that to let him.
He played the governor already in Striptease, so like, yeah, we're not going to make him president.
Well, Jack was a replacement for actually Warren Beatty, and
who takes himself very seriously, so that wouldn't have happened.
It would have been interesting to see him play again, more of a comedic role. And then when they couldn't get Warren Beatty, it was also Paul Newman was the second choice. And he turned it down.
Well, he would have been sad throughout the whole thing.
I don't know. I mean, look at him in Hudsucker Proxy. He can play that comedy. But I don't know if, again, considering the character he's playing here and how he was directed, is he supposed to be like outrageous or is he going to be understated? And, to me, Paul Newman is always understated. He's never over the top. And
all I know is I want somebody to re-release those sunglasses from Absence of Malice. They were pretty damn cool.
Okay, that's a weird out of nowhere thing. I'd be like, you know what I'd wish? I'd wish to see Paul Newman meeting Tim Burton.
I'm up for some Paul Newman popcorn right now.
Not the salad dressing?
I'm not crazy about this. Actually, that's okay.
Paul Newman, he can't even, that salad dressing can't even get justice after he's gone. Look, I would have rather see him in this than maybe Where the Money Is, okay?
Oh, yeah, no.
So, there you go. That's the final word on Paul Newman's casting. So, do you have anything else to say about Mars Attacks from director Tim Burton?
No.
Okay, so that's going to end our deep dive of Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. I keep saying his name because I don't want anybody to forget whose movie this was, because it's definitely in his wheelhouse. I don't think he's a bad director. I'm still a Tim Burton fan. I'm just waiting for that next masterpiece again, So that ends our business for this week. But as you know, we always have unfinished business out there, especially deep down in the deep dive. And so I bid you guys adieu until next episode.